Hello, welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is Tangela Cheatham, Deputy Athletics Director for Administration and Senior Women's Administrator at Central Michigan University. My goal as a leader is to provide those around me the opportunity to grow and develop in the way that works best for them, and helping provide the tools for them to do so for the betterment of the student athletes we serve, and for themselves as both people and professionals. Over the course of my life, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership philosophy, and I'm grateful for leadership development programming, like the NCAA Dr. Charles Whitcomb Leadership Institute, for providing the opportunity for me to connect with other professionals from Division I to Division III who are also growing as leaders. Through the Institute, I've been able to continue my growth as a leader, and I hope to continue having the opportunity to empower others. I hope you enjoy this episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive leadership in college athletics. Our guest today is Jazmin Elliott. Jazmin is Director of Corporate Partnerships at Norfolk State University. Greetings, Jazmin. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me and for getting Norfolk right.
Yeah, did I get it right?
You got it right.
I don't know. I've heard that it's pronounced another way. So, Director of Corporate Partnerships, describe that role to me.
So my role consists of fundraising. Right. Under the umbrella of development as far as the athletic industry is concerned. So I secure partnerships as well as maintain the partnerships that we currently have. And like I said, of course, always trying to grow those corporate partnerships.
Yeah. So is it housed under development?
No.
Or is it, so development is different. You have people that ask donors and ask people for money. And then you're more of business, going to businesses, trying to get them to partner with the university.
Yep.
Give me an example of that.
So my role, so I'm going out to different corporations. The majority of our corporate partners are regional. So those companies that may have an already familiarity with the brand at Norfolk State University. And then, of course, those that we want to introduce to that brand. And then just figuring out how do we align those two brands, right? How do we appeal to that brand? I think right now, a lot of times people think of corporate partnerships and it's in the name of like advertising. I look at it because I came from the College of Business previously. I'm thinking on a larger scale, right? Of national brands. You don't need Norfolk State University to advertise your brand. You have an entire marketing budget.
Okay.
You can put your brand anywhere that you want to. And so my thought process is, where does the things that your corporation cares about align with Norfolk State University and our student athletes? And how do we connect those two things? So if your company cares about DEI, community engagement, right? As a HBCU, we can connect that bridge for you where you get to kind of really connect with our community. How can you hire our student athletes? Can we look at internships, right? So not just you give us money, we advertise your brand.
Your name somewhere, yeah.
Right. But it's really, for me, my career in general, I really care about impact. And so how do we make an impactful relationship between your company and our student athletes?
You've been in this role for a year and a half.
A year and a half, yep.
So you gave me the framework, and if you can share, if it's okay, share a tangible example of doing that. What was the corporate entity interested in, and what were you able to deliver for them to make that partnership work?
So I'll speak to one of my favorite partnerships.
Sure,
is Dick's House of Sports,
okay,
which is under Dick's Sporting Goods.
Okay.
So I think there's only 3 in the nation, House of Sports. So they are wanting to grow that brand. We have one in our local region.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously a big piece for them, as far as the corporation is concerned, is growing that brand name, right? And that entity. But the other piece of it too is they really want to engage with the community. And so we had our first NIL summit. So we know NIL is a huge thing. And they really wanted to work with our student athletes. So we invited them to our first NIL summit that we had. We invited a lot of our different partners, and we were able to connect our student athletes, and obviously trying to educate our student athletes about NIL and just building your brand and what does that really look like and how can you take advantage of it, right? And that's a domino effect of how that impacts the whole department, right? If you are doing great things for NIL, it obviously is great for recruiting, for coaches, it just goes up. And so connecting our student athletes with Dick's House of Sports and them being really willing and wanting to be a part of the NIL space, right? Which is separate from the corporate partnership package. We know that those are two separate entities, but them wanting to be a part of and really engaging with our student athletes was really big for them as well. So that was kind of a win-win for everybody, is just having them really engage and mean it and want to have impact with our student athletes.
So they're also corporate partners.
Mm-hmm.
So educate me on this. How do you keep it from being like a seat license? Meaning like be a corporate partner, then you can have access to our student athletes.
So again, those are two separate,
Exactly,
right?
that's what I mean, but
I, as a person with the Norfolk State University entity, don't have a hand in the contract portion.
Yeah.
Right. So what we can do is invite you to the space.
Okay.
Right. Where now we can connect you with our student athletes. Right. And so the NIL Summit consisted of educating our student athletes, inviting different speakers who are experts in the NIL space. And, you know, one of my biggest things, and I've said it throughout my career because I've worked in higher education 10 years and had a number of different student interns. You don't know what you don't know. NIL is a very new thing. And so student athletes don't know what they don't know. So having them at this NIL summit where they're getting this education piece, and then what we do as an institution is we can present you with some corporate partners as options. These are people who are interested in connecting with you.
Okay.
And so you all now have your tables, you have your information that you are presenting. And so we don't have a hand.
Yeah, right. In the further conversation.
But we could do the connection piece, right? We are the bridge between our corporate partners and our student athletes. And then they take it.
So tell me about the corporate partnership then with Dick's House of Sporting Goods.
Dick's House of Sports.
Yep. House of Sports. So what is that deal or something like that?
Yeah, so that corporate partnership consists of, right, like the advertising. We also do things like this summer we're planning on doing a kickoff, right, for the partnership. So we're going to partner with our football team. We're going to do a football clinic. We're also going to have our head football coach. Every Monday, he does a press conference with all of the news stations. That's something that traditionally happens on campus.
Okay.
We've now partnered with Dick's House of Sports to say, what if we do it here?
Okay, yeah, I like that.
You've got an amazing setting here, right? You obviously care about as far as ROI. You want our traffic, our community
100%.
to come into your store. What if we do this here? So
With
now
an
you have
audience.
all of this news. It's already coming. They're already planning on doing it. What if they do it here?
Is that usually the audience too? With the yeah, that's excellent.
And so we're going to do this huge kickoff. We're planning to do it on a Monday. So that press conference will happen. It's going to be a huge community event. They are really excited about it. They want to kind of make they want their store to be an extension of Norfolk State
100%.
University that day.
Yeah, that's excellent.
So they're super excited of just, we did a walkthrough with our marketing team and just all the plans, like even how they're going to redesign the shoe section, right? So all of the green and gold shoes that you have, we're putting those on display.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All of, we're going to get a couple cups made of Stanley with Norfolk State branded logos. We're going to do some giveaways. So it's going to be, they want it to be that for this day, this is an extension of Norfolk State University, right? And we want to introduce our community to Dick's House of Sports because we want this to be a partnership that grows. We want it to be something that you take back to the Dick's Sporting Goods Corporation.
Come on,
and you see the impact of this HBCU and what they've been able to do for one of your 3 stores in the entire nation. And so then how do we connect from Dick's House of Sports to Dick's Sporting Goods is always the goal.
Right. So then are there aspects of that contract and of those for lack of a better word, activations that involve licensing that they have to go through, or they're already a licensed seller?
So yeah, they're already a licensed seller. So
Okay.
they already have Norfolk State merch.
Gear there,
Yep,
so
it's already
it's
in the
easy.
store. So that was one of the things of like, let's order some more stuff, right? That they have. If we can get football jerseys, helmets,
Yeah.
all kinds of things, right? So merch that they already have in the store, making sure that they have enough for people who are coming out, because we have the Norfolk State community, you know, what the
Yeah.
HBCU community
How it
is
gets,
big,
yeah.
is strong,
Hmm.
you know, so making sure that they have enough, you know, cornhole, Norfolk State University branded cornhole
Hmm.
things, right? For tailgate, having tailgate supplies there, and, you know, them wanting to brand it for Norfolk State. Those are things that
Event, baby, let's go.
absolutely.
What time of day is it going to be? Do you know? Like how you get
Um,
the community if it's in the middle of the day or the
no,
morning or
so
something?
it'll the date that we're planning is a day that everyone will be off.
Oh, okay.
Um, I don't know if I can say the date. My marketing team
That's
might,
fine.
yeah, they might be like, don't.
Well, I cut that part out. Will there be food there?
Yep, there'll be food. There'll be food trucks that it's gonna be a tailgate. We're gonna have a full tailgate outside. There'll be tents.
Do
So
you
this
have food
is,
vendors that are partners?
yeah, we do have some.
Can they be included?
Yeah, absolutely. This is gonna be something where we are inviting everybody,
Not just everybody, but
community.
specifically the
Yeah,
partners that we
absolutely. That
want you to
can
be a part of
benefit.
this event.
Yep.
Could they be a feature? Because
Y-
if I'm just if I'm a corporate partner and then I'm just a food truck amongst food trucks, I don't feel special. But is
That's
there a way
true.
to highlight?
So one of our sponsors, or one of our, he's actually a vendor,
Hmm.
and we're trying to bring him on as a partner. He has a lot of really amazing ideas, and so he and I actually have collaborated on, like, again, I don't want to just take your money,
Yeah,
right? How can we make this like really, really impactful for you?
for you
What does it
and
look
mutually
like for
beneficial.
you to get your name? Because now you are a small business, right? So it's a different impact for you having the branding than Pepsi having branding. Right? They don't need Norfolk State to brand
Right.
it, but you do. And he's really engaged with our community, right? So
I mean, you don't
having,
have to tell me the ideas
you
and
know,
create
but having
expectation.
him
Yeah.
there and not having any other vendor that sells what he sells
Okay.
there,
Making it.
right?
Yeah.
That's how you have
Like,
that
hey,
kind of
this is
impact.
what it feels like for
Right. So
exclusivity
we're
and selling
only going
your
to
hot
have
dogs or
you
something. Yeah.
here. And to me, that's one of those things where you may not even be on as a partner yet by the time we have this event, but I'm going to invite you anyway,
Yeah, I
because I
want you
want
to
you to
show you the
know what it looks like.
possibilities.
Yeah.
100%.
And the kind of treatment that you're looking at in terms of what the relationship looks like for me and my corporate
That's
partners.
excellent. So the relationship with just one more question on that line of thinking. The relationship with Dick's House of Sports, is that something you created from zero?
Yeah.
Like you went into the store one day, like, is the manager here? I got an idea. I want to talk to him. Like,
Yeah.
tell me how
So
that
one
worked.
of our director of marketing, which is another role, and our AD of external just happened to like pop into the store. Um, I think she was maybe looking for something, or we actually were at lunch across the street
Oh, really?
at one of our other partners having lunch, team meeting, and after they kind of went across the street and said, oh, like, you know, like, let's see what this is
Yeah.
about. He came back to the office. He was like, hey, we like popped in the store. It's really amazing. Like, it's awesome. So like, let's reach out. Like, let's see, you know, what it is. And so we connected with Chloe, who is their director of like community engagement, things like that. Shout out to her. She just got a promotion.
Okay.
She now works for the Dick's Sporting Goods
100%.
side.
Because that relationship she had with Norfolk
Yep.
State, like we
doing
big
social
things.
media. So she's amazing. She still works with the store, but
Yeah.
like, so shout out to her. But she was also just really excited about connecting and figuring out like, how do we make this partnership work and figure out like, okay, we may not have the budget that somebody else has, but for me, it's right, the impact
Mhm.
and knowing that maybe Dick's House of Sports doesn't have the budget, but Dick's Sporting Goods has a budget. And so let's think long term. Let's bring them on with the budget that they have. Let's make it a really amazing, impactful partnership so that we can go back and show Dick's Sporting Goods this was really impactful and that this HBCU can do what your PWIs can do that you
100%.
guys have partnered with. And so she's been amazing from inception to now, and just, fostering that relationship with her has been super easy.
So this level of attention and detail is across the board.
Yeah.
Imagine, right? Not just thinking strategically with Dick's and trying to get to the bigger brand, but also like the food vendor you mentioned, right? Like we're trying to show you the value of working with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships are huge. My degree is in public relations, right? So my whole scope of what I do is relationships. I understand, accountants do numbers, I do people.
Yeah.
And when you make people feel good and you make people feel important, and you genuinely take an interest in having an impact on like their ROI and it being just as important as your ROI, people will go through a wall for you. Like, they're going to do what they can. So when you guys are looking at numbers and budgets and figuring out where to cut and here, you're going to think twice about not just cutting this budget, but like, we have a really good relationship with these people. And so I think for me, that is huge, because then you tell your other friend that works at this company, when they start talking about marketing their business, you should go talk to Jazmin over at Norfolk State, because
they do.
She's great. Yeah.
So this is only a year and a half in college athletics.
It is.
Prior to, you were doing something with the business.
Yep. I was doing public relations and marketing for the College of Business at Old Dominion University.
Public relations and marketing for the College of Business. So telling the story of the College of Business.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So that was interesting because I like people. I don't like business. I don't find anything interesting about accounting or stocks.
But that's not just business. You just described the whole business relationship with Dick's Sporting Goods.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Dick's House of Sports. And so you like business based on how you're lighting up as you talk about this.
So I like people and their business and helping you impact. So I may not care about your accounting, about maritime and supply
100%.
chain, but what I enjoy is the challenge of making someone like me, who doesn't care or know anything about maritime and supply chain, understand the impact of why you should care. Because maritime and supply chain is why you get your Amazon package in 2 days versus 6 days, and why your kitchen remodeling ever since COVID has now taken 6 months because everything is on back order, right? So now when you understand the connection between what is impacted in your life and understanding, this matters and it's something that you should care about, right? And so for me, it was storytelling. And what's the story of this dissertation research article? I'm never going to read the maritime and supply chain research, but I will read the article about the summation of why all the research that you've done the last year and a half with that grant that you received, how does it impact me? And why is this something I should be paying attention to? And so that was something that I really enjoyed, in addition to humanizing the research and the person who was doing that research, right? Like, why is this something that you're so passionate about? Because those are the things that people want to know. And so that was something that I enjoyed doing, was getting behind the people and their why.
How long were you doing that?
6 years.
And what was the legacy you left?
I
mean, somebody else may have to tell.
I was going to say, I don't know. You may have to ask.
You got to be able to tell
them.
your own story. So what's the legacy you left after that 6 years?
I hope that the legacy I left there, or my intention in terms of the legacy that I left there, was we have to be human. I think working in the College of Business, people can be very rigid.
Everything is transactional.
Right.
Yep.
Everything is, I have this degree, I have this education, and if you don't, right, then
why are you talking to me?
I don't need to tell you my story.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the education to understand it anyway. And for me, getting my leadership to understand, and you're talking about people who have PhDs, getting them to understand, you have to tell your story, and you have to tell it in a human way. For someone like me, who doesn't have a PhD, who doesn't want a PhD, and who shouldn't have to have a PhD to understand this information, because it still impacts me.
Right.
And I will never forget having that conversation with my boss and it registering to him.
Yeah.
Like,
That felt good, huh?
oh,
Probably felt good to you.
yeah,
Huh?
it was like, okay, I get it. This isn't just an article, right? It's because it's not a research article. This is a human
The
story.
human element.
And we have to humanize this information if you
Right.
want people to digest it and care.
What was? I'll ask a couple questions before we wrap. One last question about that experience. What was the outcome? What was the return on investment for the department to have you there for 6 years?
You get their participation.
Okay.
I getting your participation.
That was your return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the department, what was the return on investment for having that department in the School of Business? Did they get more enrollment? What was the outcome you were trying to accomplish in that role?
I think because enrollment is a completely different department. They'd have to look at the numbers and things like that. I think their engagement increased with their current student population.
Right.
So I think in terms of, because I also managed things like programming.
Okay.
Right. So you're having this great programming, but you're inviting people who have been out of college for 40 or 50 years. They're not going to connect with our current student population. And so you can't figure out why no one is coming to your programming. Again, humanize this programming, right? And make it connect to your target audience. I was able to have an impact on that programming.
To see more people to
a younger
engage.
Generation. Yes, to see
Actually
people
engage.
who have only been out of college for 5 years or maybe 1 year, but they're doing really amazing things. And so to see the student engagement increase during my tenure there, I think that's
important.
Huge.
Was that something you were evaluated on?
Not outright.
Really?
No, but it was conversations like that we had with, my leadership of like, okay.
So there weren't, what were the, I mean, okay, that to me, it seems like, how do I know I'm being successful other than a conversation you had with your boss where the light comes on?
Are you meeting deadlines? Are you...
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now the roles you're in addition to intangible success in terms of humanizing transactional thought, there's also tangible outcomes you can look at in terms of partnerships and things like this.
Absolutely.
This role probably fits you a little better, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I'm talking to way more people on a regular basis, as opposed to, a lot of times working in the College of Business, you're looking at like quarterly newsletters, you're looking at news stories. And so it's a more behind the scenes role as opposed to being like you are the face. You're one man show in terms of development is concerned. And so it's me. You're going to talk to me.
Yeah, which is excellent. And revenue generation in the athletics department is always needed. So the role you're doing is great. I'll ask the last question, then we'll wrap. You were part of some of the MOA opportunities, I imagine. MOA Learfield opportunities.
Yep, the Learfield Academy.
Yeah.
The Learfield Leadership Academy under MOA. Amazing opportunity to be a part of their 2023-2024 cohort.
What was one of the biggest returns you got from being a part of that process?
The networking.
So people.
Yeah, people, for sure. Again, it's always going to be people for me. I think this being my first year in athletics, there's so many things that I just never thought about. So I think the most impactful session that we had was the Learfield alum coming back to kind of talk about the impact that this had on their career and what they're doing now. They're doing things that I would have, they've taken this athletics into so many different industries that I would have never even thought about, right? Like you think about athletics and I'm thinking college athletics, but it's like there's so many places you can go.
Yeah.
And so, your eyes get big like,
oh.
Yeah, this is great.
I could do that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that was amazing. Ian Moses, Stan Johnson, like they took a very genuine interest in me and what I wanted and, like helping me to think about like next steps.
Yeah.
So I think that was That was great.
You can't beat that. Well, Jazmin, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
I appreciate you having me.
Yes, ma'am. That was Jazmin Elliott. She is the Director of Corporate Partnerships at Norfolk State University. And of course, I am Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.